Coming to you from sunny California and the Great White North. Get ready. We are breaking down the obstacles on the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Friday, December 2nd, 2016. My name is Rich, and joining me once again for Team Ninja Warrior College Madness is Bijan. How you making out?
I don't even know what to say, man. I feel like I'm in love. At the same time, I'm shocked. But more than anything else, I have fallen in love tonight, dude. Team MIT is the greatest team ever in this entire sport. I can't even begin to, explain just on how many levels this team is amazing.
Like, where did they come from? Like, who saw that coming? Like,
seriously.
Unbelievable.
Like, what is happening? It was so cool. Not just that, man. I think they even made it a point. This is the first team to ever do an entire perfect run throughout the entire episode. Every single run they've done, all their teams, all their matchups, they hit the buzzer. That is incredible.
Yeah. First place, every run, hit the buzzer every run. Unbelievable. That was very, very cool.
Yeah, but not just that, man. This is the thing. On paper, you feel like you just look at them, they're decent, but they're more athletic people. You look at them, and they kind of fit that prototypical mold of, yeah, these guys are kind of nerdy. I mean, it's hard because you just look at them, and there are people that just are, all their matchups, the guys are bigger than them. Oh, God, what's her name? She was so good. Amelia Becker. You look at her, she's like as tall as Casey Catanzaro, and they're just more humble and everything, and yet Amelia Becker's just like going through all these women, just going on beast mode, man. It's insane. And there was one big standout to me of why they did so well this episode. And I'll go through it later on when we're going against the matchups, but just to preview it and just to sum it all up, it's going back to the argument that I always bring up when it comes to this entire sport of obstacle course racing, which is technique will always prevail over athleticism. And there is no team that gives a better foundation of that argument more than this team, Team MIT, against all their matchups. It was amazingly beautiful to see, man.
Well said. I have nothing to add to that. They were phenomenal. So your choice got eliminated last episode. My choice got eliminated this episode.
Dude, I'm fine. I'm so, like, this is the thing. I don't care anymore if, like, all of our picks or whatever. I don't even care. Screw all of them, dude. Team MIT all the way. I never wanted a team to do so well in my life. They have to win this show, man. They have to. Talk about and just an amazing story. I don't know. I can't even fathom just how elated I'll be if they win this entire thing. I've never seen a team that's been so, I guess, just overlooked, just thought upon like, oh, that's cute, good for them with a participation prize, your whole millennial thing. But they have just blown through everybody and exceeded so many expectations, not just from a viewing aspect, but think about this, Rich. The one thing that everybody thinks of when it comes to people getting on the traditional American Ninja Warrior, with all of the recruitings and standouts and everything, the number one thing they always say is you need to have a presence. You need to stand out. You need to be comfortable in front of a camera. You need to have charisma. And while there's always exceptions to the rule, I don't think any of these three members of the team would have a chance of being on American Ninja Warrior. And that's the amazing part about this, is that they did get a chance to be on Team Ninja Warrior, and they killed it. And because of that, they can go on American Ninja Warrior and do so well as well, because they don't fit the typical mold of your typical American Ninja Warrior athlete. And that's what I love so much about them. They fit that role where we can root for them, and even though they don't have that charisma and that presence, they have a different kind of charisma and presence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. They're my people, man. Like, I'm telling you, This is a great team to have in there. This is representing the nerds. Like, come on. And I don't mean that in a negative way.
Team Nerds, man.
Oh, yeah. This is I'm naming this episode Revenge of the Nerds. There's no way I can't name it that.
Perfect. Just from all aspects, too, like, Rich, me and you, like, body-wise and body type can't be more different. Like, we are exact opposites, right?
Yeah, completely.
But with that said, we're still both nerds, not only for the love of the show, but, like, you have a computer background. I have academic in the way of education background. I'm training to have a PhD in education, so we're both nerds, but yet we still have this happy medium of things to come together with, and that's the whole thing, basis on nerds. And I love that, man, that nerds can just they don't have to always fit the same stereotypical mold. But even with that, this team is 100% that stereotype, dude, like to a T.
Yeah, they do seem to fit it, except they're very strong athletes, which, of course, you are as well. So it doesn't have to be all one-sided. So let's get into the episode itself. Let's run down some of what happened.
Are you sure? I could just talk about Team MIT for an hour, dude. I really can.
I think so. I think it seems that way. So our first matchup, we had Texas A&M versus University of Oklahoma.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. It was a rough start.
This was not a pretty... I was getting real worried about this episode watching this matchup. It was not... I don't know.
Yeah, when they were falling on the pole grasper and then the other guy falls too, is like, okay, so that's not a strong start to the episode. And then the women run and then they fall on the sonic swing. And then Katie did the whole course. Katie did phenomenal. But it just wasn't looking like a very strong, balanced episode. It's like, okay, I guess we'll have a good episode then a bad episode, right? Because the first episode was great.
It's not that though. It's hard for me to criticize, right? Because we're not there, But it is our kind of job in this situation of being podcasters to critique the episode. And I have to say, I was kind of disappointed in both teams with this run. With that said, was Will Smithy in this?
Yeah, Will Smithy was the standout. That was when I started to kind of come around on it.
Yeah, for me as well. I forget her name. Who's the girl that got up the warped wall? She was good.
Yeah, Katie Haymaker.
Katie Haymaker. She did really well. I was impressed with her, but it was hard to get too enthusiastic with her run just by the fact that she didn't really have much opposition with that matchup. But props to her for completing the entire thing. Will Smithy really impressed me, and I'll go more into him later on, but he was one of the standouts of this entire episode, and somebody, we definitely need to look out for. I think he made himself a star this entire episode. Even losing, I think he made himself a star.
Yeah.
With that said, this matchup as a whole between these two teams, really disappointing to me.
Yeah, what was weird about Will, and I was going to circle back to it later, but let's get into it now. He was a strange mix to me because this run, when it was all said and done, he looked absolutely exhausted and sounded exhausted by the run. And it looked like...
Did you see how fast he was going?
Yeah.
Man.
Right. But here's the thing. He's this weird mix of looking extremely comfortable and extremely uncomfortable the whole time. Like his posture, his shoulders, his facial expressions look like he's really struggling. But you wouldn't know it by looking at his body, right? He seems to move smoothly, but he just projects this aura of uncomfortableness the whole time.
Well, there are certain athletes and people in general that have anxieties, and I'm willing to guess that this guy deals with certain anxieties, not the same way that other people do. He probably gets extremely nervous prior to runs, but it's kind of like the buildup. You get really nervous, but then when you're in it, you kind of get used to it. I have a public speaking degree, and it's the one thing I always tell everybody is that the buildup is usually a lot worse than actually being in it, And it's hard for people to relate to that, but I genuinely feel like when you're doing something, you kind of find yourself to get comfortable, and I think that's how he deals with it.
That makes a lot of sense. That actually would kind of match what I was seeing. It wasn't physically he was all in, and he was great. It was just nerves maybe that were making him seem so tense.
Yeah. I mean, you could see it all over his face that he was incredibly nervous right prior to the runs. But, once again, it's one of those things where it kind of makes you root for the guy even more. I really found myself wanting him to do quite well.
Yeah, I was kind of torn in the end, right, when we had him squaring off against MIT to jump to the end of the episode. But it was like I really wanted to see Will do well, but I was really rooting for MIT by that point.
I wanted him to do well, but MIT all the way, man. Sorry, I'm going to be biased as all heck this entire series, guys. Just get used to it.
So you're switching up your choice, MIT all the way.
MIT all the way, man.
So yeah, in the second matchup is where we get to finally see MIT. We had MIT versus Uconn. And it took me this long to clue into why they're called the Huskies. Uconn, duh. Charlie versus...
I'm not... I'll say this. Just from the off look, looking when they have these two teams and have the little vignettes. By the way, a quick shout out to the production in terms of this show. I was thoroughly impressed this entire episode and last episode with how they deal with the vignettes and introducing these teams. We were really worried about they'd make it too much about the colleges and maybe go too much into the backstories. They had the absolute perfect blend of the vignettes and introducing the athletes in short little vignettes prior to the runs. I really was impressed by that. With that said, when you look at the two teams and them introducing them, were you expecting Team MIT to be as, impressive as they came off to be in their vignette and on the show?
No, nobody expected them to be that impressive. Like, absolutely came out of nowhere.
But just the vignette, man, I was like, oh, these guys aren't chumps, man. Like,
well, yeah, they kind of held back some little things like the fact that Charlie's training with Josh Levin. Like, come on, that's kind of important to know ahead of time.
Yeah. With that said, still, every time they'd be matched up with the guy next to him, it's just it's ridiculous, right?
Well, they pegged the whole thing as it's the nerdy school versus the basketball school here, and we've got not just nerdy, like that doesn't do it justice. It's a tiny school. It's not a big school on top of everything else. It's not like they're
it's small,
some big college campus the way we've got with these other ones. And they gave some crazy numbers later. But in this matchup, yeah, like you just look at the size matchups and stuff, and it just totally catches you off guard when they start just breezing through the whole thing with no issues whatsoever. Each one goes through and is like, wait, MIT's up by 2 runs now? And then the last guy, Tomas, takes off like a bullet out of a gun, and there's no catching him. Like, there's no chance for the other person. Like, forget waiting for a slip up. Like, you just have to go. You need to put down some ladders and some extra boards, and so that they don't have any obstacles, and just run at full tilt to catch this guy.
Yeah. The thing that stood out to me more than anything else is just how technical they were. When every single member of the team, when they'd go fast, right? Especially Tomas, but it wasn't the speed that really hit me. They had a very similar style to Weatherman. What's his name? Oh my God, I'm losing my
Joe
mind.
Moravsky.
Joe Moravsky. Yeah, they have a very similar style to Joe Moravsky, where you see the ease in how they're doing the obstacles, and they're hitting every note perfectly on the technical level, where you see the people that are competing against them struggling and going fast, but looking very awkward in their transitions. And that's how they're able to excel more than anything else, is their comfort level with the obstacles. And I really wasn't expecting that, because there are other people from other teams in this entire episode that have backgrounds in doing Ninja Warrior obstacles and at Ninja Warrior gyms. So it really impressed me by the level of how technical they were. I think they're even more technical than Team Houston, man. And yeah, I think that was the major standout to me.
Yeah, when you look at the way Tomas, to go back to him again, did the cargo net, I don't think anybody on any of the episodes, even with the professional, we call them professionals, I guess, but the main ninjas, I don't think anyone did the cargo net as efficiently as he did. He would just hit it and like almost like one-handed underneath it. Like, it was unbelievably fast the way he could get through that obstacle.
Mm-hmm. He hit every note perfectly. It was fast, but it was very precise, and I think that's the key. because you can definitely overlook these things and be like, oh, they're just going fast, they're just going crazy. But look at how they do it. They know exactly what they're doing when they do it. So that definitely stood out to me. Another thing was just Becker, Amelia Becker. I mean, you see the size difference of her competing against these other women. These women that are a lot more stronger, a lot taller, just all around, just more impressive. More built for, I guess, Ninja Warrior. And yet she gets by with how technical she was, and she always stayed calm, and that was truly impressive to me. Not just that, she's the same size as Casey Catanzaro, and she got up that wall twice.
Well, here's the thing.
Crazy good.
This matchup, so Uconn was our pick to win this, and probably a lot of people's, and I'm feeling like the seeding for this was probably meant to showcase them, right? Like they put them up against against the supposedly weakest team, and they get their butts handed to them. Because Jade was the one that we went on and on about, like, can't wait to see her go, because she's going to be amazing. She's got all these athletic backgrounds. You look at her, she looks like she's designed for this course. Like she's, farm strong. They do the big day with her, and then Amelia just blows her away. Like, unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I truly think we're going to see come out of this entire series with Team MIT being fan favorites for a long time.
Yeah, so they ended up winning the race, as they did through the whole episode. So then we move on. Uconn then had to turn around and face Texas A&M immediately since they had lost. So I didn't expect that to go the way that it did, because
nope,
that was a little bit surprising, because Uconn looked like they were going to make the big comeback, because A&M started struggling immediately. The first guy falls in the pole grasper. Then Katie ends up missing the cargo net, so Uconn goes up 2-0. And at that point, did you think Uconn might actually be facing MIT in the final?
I mean, no, just because there was only one person that really impressed me more than anybody else, and that was Will. Oh my God, what's his last name again?
Smithy.
Guys, Rich is the guy that has all the deets. I just, go with the flow. So Smithy really impressed me, and I remembered, Team Ninja Warrior, you can get by at least all the way to the relay with having one incredibly strong team captain, and I felt like Smithy would probably beat either of the guys, so I was just ready for that.
Yeah, once they lined up, and I was like, oh yeah, Will. I don't think either of those guys are going to beat him, and they didn't. It wasn't even really close. It wasn't like, it didn't come down to the buzzer. Will just stomped them both, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for him.
But what's crazy is that both guys had a chance, and on the second run, Smithy just went back-to-back. I mean, he flew through the course once, full sprint, and then he had to go immediately again and run against it from the other guy on the team, who's probably a lot more fresh, and he still beat him by a wide margin as well. I mean, this guy is really, really good.
Yeah, it wasn't like, they were coming up over the warped wall when he's hitting these buzzers. Like, he has a good margin on them.
Yeah, he really, really impressed me, and I can't sing his praises enough. He stood out, and I think he's going to be one of the standouts. In terms of, losing, he won while losing, if that makes sense.
Would he be your pick for the athletically profound run of the night?
He is the athletically profound runner of the night.
Yeah,
loved MIT, but he's the one.
As the standout solo runner, he definitely did, carrying his team as he did.
By the way, since he's 22, props to the grizzled old veteran of the of the show, right?
Yeah. So from there, we end up going back to MIT now. MIT versus Oklahoma, and they threw some numbers up, and I got to share them because it does really kind of put it in perspective. MIT's football stadium 1,600 versus 84,000 for Oklahoma. That's a huge margin.
I can just imagine they have this small little like one of those high school size little stadiums.
Well, so I was thinking our high school auditorium held 1,000 people. Like that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
We got 0 Heisman winners versus 5. That says something. But the next one was the funny one. 95 Nobel Prize winners versus 0. Very, very different schools.
I did not know they had that many Nobel Prize winners. That's amazing. Like, the other stats, I was like, that isn't surprising, but wow. Good on them.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Go MIT, man. I had no idea MIT's that high level.
So yeah, and they're high level when it comes to Ninja Warrior too, because they just didn't have any trouble at all. Like, the Tomberlin fell at the beginning on the Ring of Fire, and so that was kind of a gimme for them. They fast forwarded the women, which really surprised me, but then we saw that Candace fell on the Ring of Fire as well, so that left. They still went and finished the course too, so they hit the buzzer every time, and then it was just Tomas versus Nietzsche, Taylor Nietzsche.
Yeah, and who had an amazing front flop, just
epic fall of the night for sure.
Yeah, but just, I don't know, man. Just look at Tomas. Like, he's got the glasses with the little thing that connects the glasses on the back. It's just so.
Oh, it's fantastic, fantastic.
It like, the look is just amazing on so many levels.
So that gave us our winners. That gave us our 2 teams going into the finals, and it was Texas A&M versus MIT. And right off the bat, man, Colin falls in the Ring of Fire, so they get a 5-second penalty. It's like, you can't give up. Like, you can't give them that kind of an edge. Like, it was just over right then.
Yeah. Well, what I not to call a member of a team out, but Colin was definitely the weak link of his team. I mean,
yeah,
you saw the two other team members, kind of holding down the fort. Colin was just, everybody's strong in certain aspects of sports. I don't think this is a sport for him. Let's just say that.
Yeah. So looking back over the episode, he fell on the pole grasper, and then the pole grasper, and then the Ring of Fire. So it was not a great episode for him. Now, he's 6'5", which kind of made it all the more jarring to see, this beast of a man standing next to Tomas, the
little tiny Tomas.
Yeah, and Tomas just stomps him in the run. But Katie versus Amelia, they both did really well. But they had to, try to make up that time. And then it was Will.
Props to Katie, by the way. She did quite well trying to make up that time.
Yeah, she did. I think she did actually, make up a little bit. And then Will Smithy, as strong as he was, he just couldn't close that gap. It was just too much of a lead for him to try to make up.
I was really impressed with Will's, lock-off strength of doing the graspers. He flew through that. Really impressive.
Yeah, so at least they kept it relatively close. They both hit the rope climb, and you're like, can he, if he's strong enough on it, or if Charlie's weak enough on it. But there wasn't really, there was no weakness to make up, man. The MIT was just strong all around. Yeah,
it was great, dude. I'm just so excited and happy about MIT. You look at the team and you see, not everybody, but I'll guess my faults. I look at them and it's like, they do well, but I would never in my life guess that they do as amazing as they did this episode. And I'm really happy for them that they're able to change expectations and change the perceptions of the sport, of how people are supposed to look. Because I think for a lot of the audience, a lot of people discredit them by thinking they have to look like Kevin Bull or JJ Woods, 1% body fat, or Jesse Graff, where, there could be people that are just regular looking, that just, if you have that technique, you'll do absolutely fine.
Yeah, I'm hoping the producers kind of take a clue from that too. Like you said, it's easy to picture them being overlooked because they don't fit a certain look, I guess, for the regular show. So I'm hoping that they'll see that we want to see people that are different. We want to see unique individuals, and we want to be able to root them on. So good on them. I loved, and it was such a weird moment. Casey did a good job on the sideline this episode. I should mention her as well. I think she did a better job than episode 1 even. But she started calling for a chant at the end, and I seriously, for a second, I was waiting for it because I don't know if have you ever seen Revenge of the Nerds? Because I was just waiting for them all to start going, nerds, 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 nerds.
No, but I did see how they were a little offbeat in their chants, which just made it all more beautiful.
Telling you, they're my people.
I feel you, man. It just overall great stuff. I really like the dynamic of this team, and as you said, man, it gives them they're kind of like the anti prototypical Ninja Warrior, and that makes them just all the much more better.
So yeah, I mean, I picture them going up against Georgia. I don't think there's any competition. I think MIT wins that hands down. So we'll have to be.
Oh, don't you put that stink on them?
Oh,
you know how bad we are at predicting.
Do we want to change our predictions? Who do we curse for this next episode? Let's take a look here.
I know. Oh man, I feel bad for whichever team we choose.
Okay, so next week we're going to have USC versus UCLA and University of Colorado versus Stanford, and we had picked Stanford. So are we sticking with that pick? Are we going to curse Stanford to the same fate of Uconn and Houston?
I'll say this. It's going to be a much closer matchup with all these teams, just because 3 of the teams have backgrounds in climbing, and the other team is kind of a mixed mash of kind of weird. I don't know what's going on with is it UCLA? I think it is. Or they have some really weird backgrounds. With that said, yeah, it's UCLA with the weird backgrounds. I'm still going to go with Stanford just by the fact that they have a record in speed climbing, and it's high-level speed climbing, whereas the other teams are just rock climbing and stuff. Stanford's got a much higher pedigree. With that said, as we've seen, your arm strength's good and all, but you kind of need balance, endurance, and, just be technical and athletically profound, hashtag. So, yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
At this point, I don't even know, man.
Just to throw another name into the ring, I'm going to go Colorado this time, just to see. We'll mix it up, see if we can be wrong on 2 instead of just 1 this time.
Oh man, I'm sure the teams are just like cursing at us right now. Damn you!
All right, so moving on, we'll go to the National Ninja League XT Fitness. So it was interesting format this time. He actually showed all the names at the beginning. I like that. It was a lot easier for me to jot them down quickly.
I saw that. I was like, oh, this is going to make Rich's life easier.
Yeah, it saves me some digging and trying to figure it all out. And trying to rewind and listen again to how he said the names and trying to figure out who it was. So 3rd place for the women, we had Alicia Moonen. Second place was Rachel Brown. Not first place for once. And Michelle Warnke took first place. Alicia had some trouble on the pole grasper. The course looked pretty good overall. She looks pretty strong. They showed her doing a few different obstacles. I thought she looked pretty good, pretty comfortable. Mm-hmm. And then they cut over to Rachel Brown, and I thought, what is this trapeze thing they got her on? Like, that is one of the crazier obstacles I've seen them doing, like swinging across.
Yeah, it was high, too. I'm glad they explained why she was in the adult league, because you look at her, this tiny little 14-year-old girl, super high up, doing this super dangerous type obstacle, and you're like, oh my god. But, luckily she had a pad underneath her, and they did explain that she qualified for the adult league, and which is why, she's doing a little bit more dangerous / harder obstacles. With that said, always impressive, Rachel Brown. I can't sing her praises enough. One obstacle that really stood out to me in this whole thing is they had this kind of like pipe slider, but it was broken up with these little, like segments where you had to like lift it above and over, like little transition gaps. And I found that really creative. I liked that. It's not something that's going to be super hard, but it'll make you expend a lot more energy, which, I appreciate obstacles that do that. I think too many gyms try to have short little explosive obstacles. It's always good to have more longer geared obstacles, just to make it, the endurance game more part of the whole thing. And yeah, that trapeze, man, that was a huge gap. Oh boy.
Yeah, technique seemed to be really important there, as we saw, because even Michelle Warnke, who was doing phenomenal at conserving her energy, as Chris was describing, did a really good job trying to kind of lay out what was going on here. she ended up going on the trapeze too because she just didn't get enough of a swing as she was transitioning. And then we cut over to the men. We had Ethan Swanson, who, if I'm not mistaken, is the guy who did the crazy roof jump.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense because his laches were amazing.
Yeah, the contrast was really, really huge because he was flying off the trapeze.
Not just that, like super comfortable doing it as well.
Yeah, everything that he was doing, he looked very comfortable. And right to the end, he was just shy of actually completing the course. Just fell on the mat, dismount, which we didn't get a full appreciation of until the next one where you get to see that final obstacle in a little more detail.
Man.
Brandon Mears. That is a long, crazy obstacle where they've got all these tiny little ledges to move between. Like, I don't know how many would you say that was, like 15?
It was a lot. Imagine monkey bars, everybody, but rather than grabbing the bar, you have to grab a small little segment of a cliffhanger, and you just have to grab by your fingertips. That's insane. What an amazingly creative obstacle. Like, this is the stuff that I love seeing, and man, I could really see an obstacle like that on American Ninja Warrior. I really hope, they take some notes from the local gyms. This was an amazingly cool obstacle.
Yeah, that was a really good idea. I felt bad for Brandon because he had to bend his legs up. He's so tall. Yeah, that would have made it so much harder.
Yeah, that is rough. Just seeing it, you're like, look at him. You're like, oh, this guy's gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, so he failed there too, but he must have made it to that obstacle faster than Ethan because he got second place. And first place was actually Bryce LaRoche. Wow, this guy was amazing. Like, watching him go into that obstacle, you wouldn't even think it was the same obstacle, the way he locked off and just made it through everything and made it look so almost easy.
Yeah, very comfortable. His forearms were ridiculous. It was damn near Jeff Britton status, and you can just see he's very comfortable in these obstacles that definitely deal with your forearm and grip strength. Good on him.
Yeah, so great job, Bryce. So that was our coverage of the National Ninja League. We have lots more to come. They announced, and I'm sure they're already posted. We're a few weeks behind, which is good because it means that we always have one to talk about. But they mentioned 3 upcoming competitions, which means we're good for a little while.
Yeah.
So that is it for this week. Thank you all for listening in once again. If you're enjoying the podcast, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe, particularly on iTunes. That really helps us out a lot. Let your friends know that we're still here, even though it's the off-season. We're still got lots to talk about. Not even the off-season. What am I talking about? College Ninja Warrior is on. Make sure that if they don't have Esquire, they need to get it. Check it out. And if you'd like to reach out to us, you can reach us at Ninja Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. You can email me at rich@ninjapodcast.com. And Bijan, how can they reach you?
Hit me up on Twitter and Instagram at Bijan151. That is Bijan 151.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great week.
Peace, y'all. Go MIT!